Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the live radar, as we still do have very cold conditions and snow around for some. The colder weather will be ending though for all on Sunday, with a big band of precipitation moving up. Initially snow for many, before turning back to rain, as we'll see on the UKV in a minute. We'll then, in the second half of the video, have a look at the longer range, like the GFS, GEM, ECMWF, and the ensembles, as we've got real big mixed signals beyond the next week or so. It's highly likely we actually colder once again for a few days towards the middle of next working week, but after that, there is a lot of uncertainty. Some of the models have blocking persisting, keeping us in a northerly airflow. Others have low pressure pushing back in off the Atlantic. So we've got huge spread within the ensemble members and within the operational runs. And if what we saw in the operational runs at the moment came off, we'd see a lot of oscillating temperatures, and some areas in the north will continue to see a lot of snow, potentially even into the Christmas period. And of course, if that blocking did come off, which some of the models are hinting at, then we could see more widespread colder conditions. But of course, as we'll see in the second half of the video, there is huge uncertainty with. But we will focus on what's happening over the course of the next week or so, as we've got pretty good confidence. We've still got another 3 days, potentially 4 for many, of very cold conditions, widespread low single-digit temperatures, and widely into sort of the low mid negative numbers overnight. And of course, we will be seeing snow showers around for some before it turns milder towards Sunday. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, for the start of the live radar, we've got sort of 2 areas of interest really. We've got that snow across southern and southwestern England over the course of last night that is now clearing away, and then we've got snow showers packing into northern and eastern areas. Now, at the moment, you see all of this precipitation that's now across sort of Guernsey, Jersey, and down into parts of northern France. This was lingering over southwest England and central southern England for a time last night, and again, many areas saw some snow. Some areas over higher ground, especially and inland, saw a centimetre or 2 of snow sort of accumulating. But you know, I did see a lot of people commenting on there was quite extensive precipitation on the radar, but not many actually saw falling snow. Now, the reason for that will be because of the dew points. The air that we've got in place at the moment is very cold. This weather front pushing up is bringing sort of light to moderate precipitation from clouds high up in the atmosphere. So this precipitation has to travel a long way and through very dry air, symbolic by the low dew point. And what this means is when we have light precipitation, it does tend to evaporate before it reaches the ground. So on sort of the level the radar looks at, there's light precipitation falling, but actually on the surface we see nothing at all. And that's the issue sometimes we get with these frontal systems, with frontal snow. Because the air is so cold over the top of us, we see evaporation. So it is difficult to pinpoint exactly what the radar is showing at times. So yeah, some people unfortunately last night did see a few hours of snow on the radar, but saw very little in reality, simply because it did evaporate. Of course, heavier bouts of precipitation with more moisture in the air, that does raise the dew point slightly enough so that that precipitation reaches the ground. So sometimes you have to wait for the heavier bands of precipitation to move in to see that. But of course, with this event where it just skimmed the south coast, some areas didn't see that. So yeah, a bit of a confusing signal last night, but some areas did see snow. We'll have a look at the radar estimates in a minute. But all of that precipitation is now in sort of Central Europe, given absolute dumping there. Many areas seeing 10 to 20 centimetres. And again, I've seen some comments saying, imagine if this snow was 100, 200 miles further northwards, most of England and Wales would have been absolutely caked. But not what we saw. Now, if you go further northwards, we've got a lot of snow showers around. If we've got sort of a resurgence of the north to northeasterly winds, plenty of snow showers packing in, again, accumulating readily, especially over Scotland and over the mountains. Going to be seeing tens of centimetres of snow build up after this week. And then across northeast England and East Anglia, seeing snow showers push in. Some of these heavier, more widespread showers could push maybe 10, 20, 30 miles inland, but I'm not expecting them to move too far inland before petering out. So some areas in eastern England could see some falling snow, but I'm not expecting any major accumulations apart from a few areas where the heaviest showers do push in and where they band up to give heavy extensive accumulations. Now, if you put on the temperatures as of around 1 p.m., you can see again it is a very cold day. Widely, those temperatures are towards the low single digits. You can see where we've got these lighter blues. Definitely those temperatures down towards the low single digits, if not touching on freezing. But widespread cold day. And again, we've got another 3 or 4 days of this, whereas until Sunday, where we could wake up to a frost, and by the mid-afternoon it could be 10 degrees. So yeah, big changes coming on Sunday. And if we also just have a look while we're on the radar, have a look at the past 24-hour precipitation amounts. Again, these are radar estimates, so again, some of these areas in the south would see nothing at all. But you can see quite extensive precipitation in the south, but most of this actually didn't really reach the ground. Only really the far south coast and southwest England where we did see some accumulations down in Cornwall. Some areas seeing some a centimetre or two, especially over the higher ground. So some areas waking up to a bit of a wintry wonderland, others not so much. But you can see the extensive snowfall across central and northern Europe. Again, this, if it was 100 miles, 200 miles further northwards, would be impacting most of England and Wales. But unfortunately, we didn't see anything play out like that. But of course, you can see the snow regions at the moment, and those will just continue over the course of the next few days. Not expecting anything too widespread at the moment in terms of any little systems or anything. Most of the showers will be along northern and eastern coasts, most areas in England and Wales and parts of the Republic of Ireland. Pretty much for the rest of this cold spell, it's just going to be cold and frosty and hopefully quite sunny as well. Now, if you do have a look at the weather warnings, we still have yellow weather warnings issued all the way to Friday at this point. Again, we've got the snow and ice warning that's due all the way until tomorrow evening. Again, snow showers on icy surfaces. Again, could see 15 to 20 centimetres on higher ground, a few centimetres to lower levels as well, all dependent on the shower activity. Got a wind warning from today until 2 p.m, so by the time you're watching this wind warning will expire. Again, 50, 60 miles per hour for those heavier showers pushing in. Ice warning across parts of Northern Ireland from 3 p.m. today until 11 a.m. tomorrow, again because of wintry showers, not producing too much accumulations, maybe 1 to 3 centimetres in a few places, but it's generally because of the precipitation. Wherever it does fall, if it melts, it will refreeze overnight. Again, high likelihood lower end of the impact matrix. And then another ice warning along the east coast, where we've got those snow showers from 3 p.m. this evening until midday tomorrow. Again, a couple centimetres of snow could fall, but most areas will see a bit of falling precipitation that could readily freeze overnight tonight. That could cause more issues. Into tomorrow, still have those ice and yellow snow warnings, and then into Friday, we have a more widespread yellow snow and ice warning for outbreaks of snow and icy surfaces likely to bring some disruption. And this is the signs of the breakdown, because this precipitation will be coming in from the west. Now, the wind starts to veer to a westerly by Friday, could cool some things down, could start to turn us slightly milder in the west, but for most areas still hanging on to that cold air through Friday and Saturday. It could start to bring in more extensive wintry showers, but they will be more turning to rain through Saturday and Sunday, especially to low-lying areas and coastal regions. Again, there could be potentially 1 to 3 centimetres below 200 metres, 5 to 8 centimetres above 200 metres in the south of the central belt, and over the higher ground of the north of the central belt, 10 to 20 centimetres above 200 metres. Again, high likelihood lower end of the impact matrix. Again, just because precipitation will be moving in off the Atlantic, and we will be seeing it fall to snow, at least initially, before turning to rain on Sunday. If you look at the UKV now and have a look at those precipitation and temperature charts over the course of the next 5 days or so, you can see at the moment we've just got plenty of wintry showers around, that precipitation in the far southwest petering away, and just again snow showers pushing in northern and eastern areas. Most areas are quite dry, big hard frost tonight with clear skies, and the wintry showers could drift inland for a time there through tomorrow afternoon or around lunchtime to tomorrow afternoon, but again nothing too extensive through Thursday. As we head into Friday, you can see some precipitation arriving from the west, and that's that wind veering to more of a westerly. And you can see why you have that snow warning through Scotland for precipitation pushing in, giving quite heavy snow for a time there through Friday afternoon. Elsewhere, precipitation is pushing into the west, but you can see across most of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, it is falling as rain, with milder air getting mixed in. Now, this will continue with more of this precipitation turning to rain through Saturday, especially to low-lying areas, even into Scotland now. And as we head into Sunday, we've still got frigid air over central and eastern areas. So as this rain bumps into that cold air, we could see snow on the leading edge of this weather front. For a time, you see big extensive snow event there, but milder air will be pushing in through Sunday afternoon, so any accumulations will melt immediately in the afternoon, really, and then we'll be just going into heavy blustery conditions into the afternoon. Maybe some snow over the high ground of Scotland, which isn't too unusual for this year, but loads of heavy, thundery showers elsewhere. Something we haven't seen in a good few weeks now, this sort of extensive precipitation. But yeah, it would be very, very unsettled through Sunday and Monday, for it looks likely actually into Tuesday, things could start to turn colder once again. Now, the reason for this is because you have very cold air at the moment on Friday. You can see that slightly milder air coming in from the west. That's producing that precipitation on Friday, around the -4, -5 isotherm. So not mild, but not freezing cold, sort of the -8 to 10 isotherm we've had at the moment. As we head into Saturday, slightly milder air starts to push in, and it's really through Sunday. We're still hanging on to slightly colder air, but head into Sunday afternoon. Look at that, the 10-degree isotherm tries to push in from the southwest, but really only gets sort of 5 to 7 degree isotherm in. Very, very mild conditions compared to what we've had recently as we head into Monday. But look, just to our north, very cold air is still sitting just to the Northern Isles of Scotland, and this will be flooding back in for a couple days at least. Potentially longer, again, all depending on the blocking, as we'll see in a minute, but could be pushing back in from the north as we head into the middle of next week. If you look at the max temperatures, you can see again today it's a very cold day. Again, you could mistake this for overnight temperatures normally, and you can look at widely towards the freezing point. Overnight tonight, clear skies around. It's going to be freezing cold, -5, -6 degrees, or even colder in quite a few regions. And into tomorrow afternoon, again, widely down towards the low single digits, around freezing 1 or 2 degrees. And then into Friday, look at that, widely -5 to -7 degrees, freezing cold. And by Friday afternoon, again, freezing to 2 degree, absolutely frigid conditions. And then into Saturday, again, freezing cold overnight, and Saturday afternoon, look at that, 2 to 4 degrees. So it's turning slightly milder, but still cold. And then into Sunday, look at that, overnight conditions around 6 a.m, widely freezing in northern and eastern areas. But if we go to 6 p.m, look at that, 10 to 12 degree temperatures are pushing in. Huge temperature contrast as much milder air pushes in. Still freezing across Scotland, and where we see that precipitation bump in, we could see really significant snow. But again, it's going to be very marginal, all dependent on the milder air mass. And you can see by 3 a.m. on Monday, many areas in Scotland are starting to rise above freezing. So yeah, it could be a snow event for a time for all areas owing to this much milder air. But as we said, it might only last a couple of days before turning us colder once again into the middle of next week. So if we do go over to the GFS operational run and have a look at what that's showing over the course of the next couple of weeks. Again, the weather front to our south pushing away with that low pressure system. Northerly winds coming in, quite unsettled conditions are starting to brew out in the Atlantic. And you can see the southwesterly pushing in at around Sunday, Monday. Again, the blocking is still there towards Greenland, just slightly differently orientated. So that northerly wind is more of a northeasterly wind and pushing out towards Iceland and the Atlantic. So the UK is on the warmer side of the lower pressure. But we do go on the colder side of the low pressure around the middle of next week. But it's all dependent on how strong this blocking is towards Greenland, whether it can hold out these low pressure systems coming out of Canada. On this latest GFS, it doesn't really, and we just see a barrage of low pressure systems coming in off the Atlantic. Still cold across Scotland, as we still have cold air generally shifted on this side of the pole, but it is generally mild with southwesterlies trying to push in, and right towards the end of the month it actually goes really quite stormy with that blocking signal disintegrated. And look at that, that is a severe storm, and that would be a real unsettled and horrible way to end the year. So GFS does keep that blocking around from day 7 to day 10, but it doesn't produce anything more than just 2 or 3 days of cold weather in the middle of next week before turning westerly and milder. But there is a lot of spread within this, and again, we'll have to see exactly how it does play out. But GFS definitely going on the train of a pest from the west, very unsettled pattern in the longer term. Again, something that can change rapidly, but that's the signal today. If we do look at the GEM, see how that does compare. Again, a northerly wind in at the moment. The Atlantic is gathering strength, pushing in over the course of the weekend, and then we go to a northerly wind. Quite chilly, could be quite a bit of snow around across Scotland for that, and it actually lasts all the way potentially into next sort of Thursday, Friday, before a low pressure does slide in off the Atlantic. Now, higher pressure towards our north and our west is a lot stronger here, but we're still just slightly on the wrong side of the block. So we do stay at day 10 genuinely the northerly airflow, but milder air is just creeping in for the southern half of the British Isles. So yes, this is a much more cold, potentially blocked pattern, but just in this specific situation with this orientation, it would be milder in the south and much colder in the north. So again, we'll have to see exactly how it does play out, but the GEM definitely is more on board with something potentially colder, especially in the north, and potentially quite snowy as well, with low pressure systems bumping into it. Of course, if you shifted this again a few hundred miles southwards, that -5 line would be across England and Wales, and there would be a huge snow event there across England and Wales. So we'll have to see exactly how it does play out. But GM definitely more on board with something slightly cooler, even though for most of England and Wales here are actually in quite a mild air mass, with on the cusp of something a lot colder. If we have a look at the ECMWF, again, northerly wind in at the moment, staying very cold, and then as we head towards the weekend, milder southwesties push in, and then we do bring in cold air for a time. That block is still strong to our northeast, but still, these lows just sitting in the Atlantic, you need to see these clear into Europe. So again, very similar to the GM, a blocked pattern. This would be very cold for the western half of the Atlantic, but for the UK, we're just wedged in this slightly milder air, or very mild air coming into parts of southern Britain. So we'll have to see again how it does play out. This is again a very blocked pattern, but we're just on the wrong side of the block here for colder weather. So again, blocking is going to persist. The GFS is not on board with that, but the GM, the Eastern WF, definitely has blocking up from day 7 to day 10. At the moment, it's sort of 50-50 whether we stay on the milder side or whether we see colder air flooding, or whether we sort of 50-50, we say colder air in the north and milder air in the south as we head into the Christmas period. So there is big interest here. And of course, if we did go on that colder side of the spectrum, that could bring in the risk for cold conditions for Christmas. And of course, with Atlantic systems pushing in, milder air close by would give moisture and the opportunities for major snow. Now, the cold spell we're coming out of at the moment, we haven't had that many opportunities for snow because it has been so cold and the Atlantic has been so shut off. This sort of situation is much harder to really forecast the cold with, and is much more marginal, can be very disappointing if you're looking for snow, but it can also deliver a lot more quite widely. So again, we'll have to see what happens. If you do finish by having a look at the ensemble members from the latest GFS ensembles, you can see next few days very cold, big rise in upper air temperatures, good 5 degrees above average with big precipitation, before it drops quite significantly again around the 21st, 22nd, so around a week's time, and stays cold for a couple of days. Then we see a rise more towards average and then staying around average in the longer term, maybe slightly above, but there is huge spread. Most ensemble members go colder than average by a few degrees around this time next week, and then slowly rise, but you've still got quite a few staying colder, others spiking, so there is huge uncertainty for next week. No definitive signal at this stage, as you saw by the operational runs, very subtle 100-mile differences in positioning of the high pressure, low pressure will make a vast difference in those upper air temperatures. So some of these could be very similar in sort of their pressure setup, but subtly different in terms of the exact positioning, and that will distinguish a huge swing in upper air temperatures. If you look at the dew points, you can see it is trending colder in the longer term. You can see it goes to 10 degrees here towards the weekend. It's early next week, it's for Monday, and that's very much symbolic of a mid-Atlantic air mass, very mild air mass. And you can see the longer term, we're trending much cooler in terms of air masses. So yes, it could still be not quite cold enough for snow, and still a westerly flow, but it'll be sort of a colder westerly with those dew points lower down, more towards freezing. So again, need to keep an eye on that. Of course, dew points need to be below freezing for snow, as we have at the moment. And if we do finish by just looking at the 2 metre temperatures, freezing cold over the next 4 days or so, very mild towards Sunday and Monday, before trending back towards probably average, really, as we head for the last week of the month. But you've got a huge spread. You've got some ensemble members who are freezing cold, others that are a lot milder. So again, we'll have to see. And if we do compare it to the ECMWF ensemble members, again, very cold over the next few days, big mild spread, and then turning colder, quite considerably colder from some of these ensemble members towards the 21st, 22nd. Some of them holding on all the way to Christmas, but others trending more towards average in the east of the F. Towards the sort of 20th to the 25th are generally below average. Again, could be quite cold in the north, couldn't even rule it out in the south as well. So we'll have to see exactly how it does play out. You can see the operational run there, sort of in the middle of the pack, really, for the sort of day 7 to day 10 period. So that's sort of the median of all of those runs. And you saw that it was very much sort of on the edge between producing cold weather, but also bringing very mild weather in at the same time, as there's big temperature contrast looking likely in the North Atlantic. So again, we'll have to see what happens in the longer term. Definitely a signal potentially for some blocking as we head through the last week of December, potentially for very cold conditions, but equally the blocking could be badly orientated and it could bring in milder conditions as well. So we'll have to see what happens towards the Christmas period, but if you do enjoy cold, sort of crisp, frosty weather, do enjoy the next 3 or 4 days, as it's looking likely that it will just generally be cold, frosty and potentially icy, snow around really exclusively in Scotland and northeast coasts as well. So yeah, it'll be more just a generally dry and cold spell for the next 3 or 4 days before it turns much milder, but very wet and windy for a few days before the big uncertainty comes in this time next week. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.